It's Baseball at the Corner. This is the Michigan in Trouble podcast with your hosts, Alex S. Freeman and Luke Giaconis. Luke, we're going to have baseball on TV today.
And it's not a replay of The Sandlot.
Yeah, thank goodness. I've seen it too many times. Although, there have been a lot of guys who've been comparing the way that this Tigers team is playing in summer camp to the Sandlot kids. It just feels like the energy is there. I'm excited to watch this game. I've tuned into a couple of the streams, and so I'm excited to give them another look here on summer camp for the broadcast team.
Yeah, so we just made the comparison. This Tigers team is a lot like the Sandlot kids back from the movie. So have any of the Tigers that we know of yet tried to French kiss a lifeguard while pretending to have drowned? Has anyone gone for that on the team yet?
That's a good question. The issue is that so many of the public pools are closed right now.
Yes.
COVID-19. So,
and for anyone who might be thinking, Luke, you can't make that joke. You can't make fun of lifeguards in that capacity. Guess what, people? I was a lifeguard for 2 years, so the colors run deep. Once a lifeguard, always a lifeguard.
And many a time did young hooligans try and pretend to drown.
So they could, they could try to play tonsil hockey with this. No, that's not true. That didn't happen at all. But hey, a man can dream. But
that's right.
It'll be interesting to see the team play tonight. I mean, obviously, it's getting to the point now where we're so close to the season. We are a week away. A week from today, we will be getting to watch baseball. Albeit very different and odd baseball, but baseball nonetheless. So not our Tigers. We'll have to wait till a week from tomorrow. That'll be, I think, the 24th, Friday the 24th. So we'll see. It's gonna be fun, gonna be exciting, and it'll just be cool to watch them play tonight. Are they playing the full 9, or
they're playing 7 tonight? Is what they're gonna do. Is we're gonna get a 7-inning game. Nice. On the broadcast, apparently Gardenhire will be on the broadcast. So we'll get some more insights from him. One of the things that he made a little news recently, as he's wont to do. He's such a news hound, that Ron Gardenhire. No, but he was talking about Mize. And so let's pull up the quote here. I'd like to have him right now, but we know the protocol. We know what we're trying to do here step by step. But I just think he's very poised. He knows what he needs to do and wants to do, and it's fun watching him pitch. He's in control. He has a great plan on what he needs to do to be successful. He's moving really quick. For me, it can't be quick enough. I like him a lot. I also like Casey Mize a lot, especially with the reports and a little bit of video that we've gotten of him from summer camp this time around. He's looking good. He looks ready.
Yeah, that quote is spot on. 100%. I'm going to kind of take that quote and run with it in a different direction.
Yeah, run.
Ron Gardenhire just says there in the beginning, obviously he would like to have him now, but he knows the end game with guys like Casey Mize, but also probably along with that, guys like Matt Manning and Faedo, Skubal. We've said their names, a ton. We know what's coming. The future is very, very bright, almost brighter than the sun that's about to blind me because I'm outside. The one thing, though, that I want to really kind of get back to, though, is that with Gardy, he is playing ball essentially, right? He knows right now that he would love to have all these guys up there to try to win. He probably would have liked to even have some of these guys up there last year to stop the bleeding a bit. But, he just knew that wasn't really feasible with the trajectory that they are on. So I hope that, in turn, ownership will then reward Gardy for his patience by extending and offering this man a new contract. I mean, essentially offering him a new contract at this offseason. I want Gardy to be the guy going forward. I know that the overall kind of image with baseball, it seems, is to kind of go out and get younger guys, maybe guys who weren't huge stars but know the game really well. You got your Craig Counsell's, your David Ross, and those guys were, very solid players. But
your Brad Osmus's.
Yeah, you're Brad. Yeah. Yikes. I just puked up my lunch. You mean Mr. Emotion, Brad Osmus? So I mean, when I see a quote like that, I love that Gardy knows the game, not only the literal game, but the actual then game that follows with having to kind of wait for some of these guys to come and develop at the major league level. I just hope in turn he is then rewarded for his patience, because I think he has 100% earned it. And also, wouldn't you want a guy like him at the helm if, let's say, next year world is back to normal and we have, the overwhelming bulk of our roster are a lot of these big guys that make the team out of camp? I mean, wouldn't you want a guy like him? I would. I don't know if I'm alone on that, but I think I would want that veteran leadership to kind of help us out.
Yeah, I would say that I hope that the Tigers organization is looking at what Ron has done the past few years, and not looking at the wins and losses, but looking at the development of the team, the development of the organization as a whole, the work that he's done with Al to build up this wealth of riches that we have for the future. And looking at these guys, I was listening to Fangraphs' Effectively Wild podcast, their Tigers preview. They had Anthony Fennick from the Free Press on to discuss, and Fennick made the point. He said that he thinks that we've got 60 games left in the rebuild, that there's this kind of season that, anything could really happen, but that hopefully, and what he's kind of hearing from the clubhouse is that, they're going to manage this season as a way to develop into the future. So you may see some of these guys come up and get some innings, that you may get them up and playing with to get those pitches. So I think it's not out of the question that we will probably see Mize at some point this season, because especially where he's at in his development, the next thing to do is to get him some big league innings. I don't think he will start the season up by any means, because they're going to want to manage it so that they don't have to start his service time clock and do all of that. And so they'll start to play that game a little bit with him. But I do think that some of these guys, especially the potential starting rotation, especially as you look at what we're going to do with Matt Boyd's contract this year, what we're going to do with some of these other starting pitchers that we have, how are we going to deal to get maybe some bullpen guys? Do we shift some of those guys to the bullpen? All of those questions, to kind of start to answer them, you have to see what these young guys can do pitching big league innings. And so I think that's hopefully one of the things we're going to see from the Tigers this year, is them kind of taking that road.
Yeah, and not only with the pitchers, but even on guys on the offensive side of the ball. I would love to see. I don't think he's reported to camp yet that I've heard, but if he's able to, Daz Cameron, Derek Hill has already made quite the impression thus far. Torque has obviously made quite the impression thus far. Same goes for Riley Green, who just seems to be making spectacular catches every day. Isaac Paredes, guys of that nature. So when it comes to those guys on the offensive side and the pitchers, I've been saying all along, why not? I mean, I understand if you want to maybe limit some of the newer guys like the Riley Greens, because Riley Green was not at the same level, even had we had the regular season as it was this year, as Casey Mize would have been. So I understand that comparison, but at the same time, I also think too of it's 60 games, why not? And especially, let's call it how it is, those first 20, 30 games don't go our way. I mean, what else do you literally have to lose for that last month of the season? I mean, honestly, if we're competing, then it's a different story. Then you may kind of want to take a different approach. But if we get to the 25, 30 game mark and it's just not happening, I don't understand why you wouldn't give these guys kind of a go, similar how I've said a lot to Jake Rogers last year. But we'll wait and see. Only time will tell in that regard. But we're going to definitely see some of these studs up here this season in some capacity. It may not be huge, but I definitely think you're going to see, in particular, Casey Mize, Matt Manning, those guys making their debuts this year.
Yeah, I definitely think that the Riley Green question is no question. I think he's going to start next season in Toledo. I don't think that there's really any, with the way he's playing in summer camp now, I don't think there's really a reason to even go Lakeland, Erie. Put him in Toledo and let him play, and get that experience. Similarly with Torkelson, I think Torkelson's going to fly through the system because he's already proven that he's probably not ready for the big leags quite yet, but he's definitely in a position where he is, ready to start competing at a high level. And that was another point that Fennick brought up, is that we'll probably see Torkelson's debut next year. I imagine at some point. And I think we've seen that. And that's sort of the, I don't know that we'd be having that same conversation in a normal year, right?
No.
we would be a year away from probably seeing Torkelson as of next year. But it is, it's a brave new baseball world, and that's what we're dealing with at this point.
Well, also, I feel like I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't want to make light of everything that's going on, but you said it perfectly. Had we played a regular 162, I don't know where we'd be at with some of these guys. Now that it's essentially, they've essentially lost half their season, and they're now just playing at a more pro level than it would have been. The competition that they're facing right now, going off, actual major league pitchers, maybe, your Matt Boyds, Michael Fulmers, Ivan Novas, whoever it might be. I have to imagine that competition is stronger than the pitching they would see down at Single A Lakeland. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe there probably are some phenomenal arms that I'm just not aware of and throughout other teams. And yeah, no doubt about it. Guys like Nova and Fulmer was coming back from an injury, but Nova's kind of been around a while. They probably aren't as spot on as they once were, 4 or 5 years ago, whatever that time would have been. But they're facing major league pitching right now. So in a way, it's almost benefited not only teams like the Tigers, but just teams in general. I mean, a lot of their younger prospects are now going up against, imagine if you're like some young prospect in the Yankee system, instead of, hitting off against some Single A no-namer, now you're going up against Garrett Cole. I mean, same thing with the Nationals and Scherzer and the Stros with Verlander. I mean, it's just in that kind of concept, you're almost glad in a way. Now some of these guys are going to they're seeing, this more strong and dominant pitching much, much sooner than they would have. And we wouldn't have that scenario present if everything that happened this year didn't go that way. So it's like a weird thing. I don't want to be like, it's good that it happened, because everything that's happened this year has not been good. I want to make that clear, but I guess it's a small silver lining if you want to put a positive spin on it.
Absolutely. Finding that silver lining in the world of sports. For those of viewers just joining us here, I just want to let you know we are getting ready to go to the Intrasquad game on Fox Sports Detroit. We will be tweeting along with the game from the Michigan and Trumbull Twitter account at @Mish_Trumbull. And those of you who want to participate in the conversation, use the hashtag Thursdays at the Corner. And Luke and I will be there all evening through all 7 innings of this Intrasquad game and chatting about what we're seeing, what we're getting excited about. Hopefully we get some more Derek Hill and Riley Green fireworks as they're both out in the outfield in the lineups today. And so looking forward to seeing a few more catches from those guys and continuing to see Riley's bat get working, because he's been playing really well.
Did you tell our viewers and listeners the big news about tonight's watch along or tweet along?
Let's break the big news.
I'm playing, ladies and gentlemen. I have to leave now because I have to get to Comerica. It's a good little 4.5, 5 hour drive from Illinois, but I'm playing tonight. So
I think you'll get there at just about the time the replay of the game is finishing on Fox Sports Detroit.
Yeah. I don't even think if it was a regular 9-inning game, I'd make it in time. But
you'll probably get there in time to get nailed by the traffic. Is probably about
that sounds about right.
The time you
that
get there
sounds about right. No, yeah, it's going to be exciting. I can't wait to watch. And as Alex said, if you are following us on Twitter, feel free to chime in using the hashtag. If you're not following us on Twitter, please do so. We post a lot of good fun stuff over there. We have a lot of good. Also, we got to say this too, Alex. We don't say this enough. We have a lot of great. I don't like to use the word fans because I feel like that kind of comes off pretentious. But followers, I guess that would be the word to describe our small little show we got going on. We just have a lot of good conversation over there.
Great community. It's a great community
great.
that we've.
Yeah, I don't like saying fans when you've been only doing something for 5 months. I'm not Prince. I mean, we're not Siegfried and Roy. We're just a couple of guys who talk about baseball a few times a week. But the community we've kind of created over there has been a lot of fun, and some really awesome people have regulars chiming in and commenting on the stuff we post, and a lot of good conversations. So it's gonna be a good time.
Exactly. And we've got those conversations happening both on the Twitter and here on Facebook. Those of you that aren't on Twitter but do want to participate in the conversation, we will also be monitoring the comments on this video throughout the evening. So go ahead and chime in here. But do join us on the conversation with your fellow Tigers fans over at hashtag Thursdays at the Corner on the
Thirsty
Michigan
Thursdays
Twitter feed. Thirsty Thursdays at the Corner.
Yeah. I might have a beer tonight. I might do it.
Which out there, if you are a microbrewery, perhaps in Detroit, that's a place that people love their micro brews in Michigan. So we, sponsorships available for Thirsty Thursdays at the corner with Michigan and Trumbull.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good to me. I mean, hey, cold beer is never a bad thing. So
a little bit of news to cover. We had a little COVID scare with Matthew Boyd.
I heard about this.
Where he was held out of. He was supposed to. He pitched in the live stream that they did the other day, but he was supposed to pitch earlier in that day the live batting practice. But he was exposed to COVID, helping an injured family friend who was mowing his lawn, who got hurt, and just out of habit. And being a good guy, Matt Boyd went out to help him, not really thinking about the fact that there's a pandemic, which I think is perfectly understandable. I don't know that even conscious of a pandemic, if my friend was mowing my lawn for me and I saw that he got hurt, I think I would still go out and help him.
Yeah.
At least I hope I would. I wouldn't be like, well, he could.
You knew what you signed up for.
And it turns out he did have a positive exposure, and so he had to go through the testing protocol, but he cleared that testing protocol. He is back in camp and healthy and just fine. Also, we are getting reports that we should see Daniel Norris soon in camp. So that's very exciting as well.
I was just about to say, you remember how, I think on our Monday episode, we had the story about Daniel Norris and his quote kind of being like, I'll be ready to rock and roll here pretty soon. And I was like, that's the most Daniel Norris quote you'll ever hear in your life. Hearing a story about how Matt Boyd doing a good deed, and that's how he almost got exposed to coronavirus, or almost tested positive for coronavirus. He was exposed, it sounds like. That is the most Matt Boyd story I've ever heard. Him trying to do a good deed by helping somebody, and he almost gets, bit in the ass for it, so to speak, just by being a good person. So it's like, but yeah, no, Matt Boyd's the best, and yeah, it's a very Matt Boyd story. But good news that they're both on the up and up. Matt Boyd good, and especially getting Daniel Norris back from the COVID list is fantastic to hear. We're going to need him this season and for future seasons. So let's do it.
I was thinking about this the other day based on that Daniel Norris story and then this Matthew Boyd story, and it made me think about one of the reasons why I feel like the Tigers have such a great shot this year at being the surprise team, and it's it's because there doesn't seem to be any question marks around this team about showing up to play for the season. Yeah. And again, this is not to talk poorly about guys that are making the choice for themselves and their families to hold out, but I do think it is important to acknowledge that does have a mental effect on a team. Mm-hmm. In that, if you're the Angels and there's all these questions swirling about Trout, suddenly that's gonna impact the mentality of the clubhouse. Not that any of those guys are probably questioning Trout's competitive nature, and no. He wants to do that, but there certainly is something there. And these Tigers, at least from what I've read and from what I've seen, even with Daniel Norris being held out of camp and all of these kinds of things, it's still, let's show up, let's have a great time, let's play
as much as we can,
and let's enjoy the fact that we are, it's fun to watch guys who enjoy their job.
Yeah. Well, what's the saying? If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And it's clear what these guys are doing. They're loving it. So, but you're exactly right with what you said about the mental psyche. I mean, I don't want to speak for that team because I don't really follow it too closely, but you have to imagine right now a team like the San Francisco Giants is probably feeling pretty down. I mean, they've lost their captain for the season. Not only do they lose Madison Bumgarner, he goes out and signs the Diamondbacks this past offseason, but now on top of that, they lose their other, poster child, essentially, their face of the franchise. Buster Posey is now opting out for the season. Again, we're not knocking his decision. It's the right thing to do if he thinks it's the right thing to do. But you just have to imagine that team would be pretty deflated. I will admit I would be deflated if tomorrow I found out Miguel Cabrera was sitting out the season because he wanted, to protect himself, protect his family. I would understand why he'd be doing it, but I'd still be kind of like, well, the wind's kind of out of our sails right now. So I totally get it. You are right. This team does, other than those guys, we've kind of, and I know we haven't really heard much about like Paredes and Das Cameron and Faedo and Skubal, and we don't really know where those guys are at right now in terms of making appearances this season. Because last I heard they still hadn't reported to camp. But it is good to hear, even when guys like Daniel Norris are on the COVID list, that this team is still, ready to go. And him himself is like, when I can come back, I'm coming back. So I like your train of thought though about being the narrative of how I think I don't think I would put us to win the division, but I think you're damn right. I think we got a chance to be that quote unquote surprise team. I really believe that 60 games, anything can happen. Anything can happen.
Because you think about even the mentality of coming out hot and finding yourself even 7-3 at the 10-game mark.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go, this feels pretty good. We could do this, and you get to that 20-game mark, and you're something like even 13-7.
Yeah, I mean, we have to think too. Like, imagine those first 10 games are going to be so crucial.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, realistically, have we ever said that? Like, when it's 162 games, those first 10 games can't go. They can be bad, and you can go, all right, well, this sucks. We dug ourselves in a hole, but let's get out of it. You start off the season 2-8. I mean, I'm not saying you can't go on a really, really big hot streak and come back strong, but you're starting way behind the pack now, way behind. So I don't know. I think I said it last week, but it's always important to get off to a hot start. But that has never been more important than this season because the margin for error is so slim. You really, and I'll tell you, and it might happen, but the bullpen has always been, pretty bad. Let's just call it how it is. Usually when they blow a game in the 9th inning, you're like, all right, this sucks. I mean, once again, bullpen, yada, yada, yada. But in the back of your mind, you're thinking like, okay, well, we can get them tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can still have the mentality of we'll get them tomorrow, but then you also have to have the mentality of, well, we just blew a game we just blew a winnable game in a 60-game season. That can't happen. That really can't happen. And also, that's going to be a good point too, I guess, now I'm thinking about it for the bullpen. Let's see if they rise to the occasion. Maybe I'm being too optimistic now, but in a 60-game season, maybe they kind of, it clicks and there's some sort of urgency. And I don't know, Joe Jimenez comes out strong, and maybe some of these guys, these younger guys, come up and establish or claim a role in the bullpen. So I don't know. We'll see. But
yeah, I mean, there's certainly something to be said of if they come out hot and are competitive and are competing, that could light a fire into some of these bullpen guys. And because in the past it certainly is not acceptable by any stretch of the imagination for me, but I can see where the mentality comes from of like coming into a game that's kind of close, or and like having the lackadaisical attitude of like, what's it ultimately matter? We've lost 112 games. So who cares if I blow this opportunity? And I don't know that any of those guys were consciously thinking that, because I don't think you become a professional athlete if that's your attitude. But it definitely can be like, you can get the freedom of the result not mattering, and that being a negative for your mental state and your performance ultimately.
Well, when you're in the middle of May and you're already 20 games under 500, and you're probably thinking this isn't going to happen this year, and we got about 4 more months of this crap. Those, when it happens, you're not happy about it, but it happens and you get over it. Now, in this case, that happens. You're like, well, dang it, I just cost my team a game, and we've only got 3 more weeks of baseball left because of the schedule. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm not going to hold my breath ever. I have said this before. I will say it until I finally see it with my own eyes. I've been a Tigers fan all my life. I can never recall a season where I saw the bullpen come into a game and I was relieved, or I was like, they got this. And I'm not even being facetious. Like, every time the bullpen comes in, I get nervous. There have been great relievers over the years for the Tigers, no doubt about it. I mean, Jose Valverde, when he was on. Same thing with Francisco Rodriguez, Zumaya, Fernando Rodney, Todd Jones, Shane Green, of recent years. But those are just 1 or 2 guys a season. There's still 5 to 6 other guys that surround them. It's like a house, essentially. If your foundation, let's say your closer is really, not strong, the house falls. And it's just one of those things. I mean, hopefully we can get that figured out, but we'll have to kind of wait and see on that one.
Yeah, and I think that so we've got about 5 minutes here before we're going to switch over to Twitter for the watch along. Again, Excellent. You can join us at Mish_Trumbull. That is our username on the Twitter. That's the main account. Go give it a like. But then if you are going to tweet along with us, use hashtag Thursdays at the corner.
I like it.
We will enjoy the conversation there. So Luke, in these last couple of minutes before we switch over, before we all pull up the Fox Sports Detroit stream and or on your television if you happen to be in the area where you can watch it. I will be watching from my iPad via my father's login credentials to
that's terrific.
To his television, so I can watch that game. And Luke, I believe you'll be watching at MLB.TV is where you'll be picking up the game.
No, I'll be playing the game. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
I don't need to watch it.
Keep holding it off. Although, Luke,
I need to get on
these
the
last
road
couple
here.
minutes. Let's take a look at the lineup card. I don't see your name here on the lineup card for the game.
Well, I mouthed off to the coaches the other day, and I think they're punishing me for it. Oh, damn! We're going to watch Spence pitch tonight. I have not seen these lineups or who is pitching tonight at all. So I'm seeing this for the first time, as many of the viewers at home might be. All right, cool.
Yeah, this is going to be. I like these lineups. I think it's going to be a fun day.
Why not
to watch this game? We got Grayson Griner behind the plate for Orange. It'll be nice to see him.
I just got a good feeling about him. I don't know what it is. I just feel like if he can, they kind of called him effectively wild or wildly effective last season. If he can kind of tone down some of that wildness, I don't know. I think he's got something in him. So this will be fun. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good. One thing we haven't talked about yet is how good a camp Kristen Stewart is having.
Yeah, and that's shame on us because we're like as the young kids on Twitter say, we might be Kristen Stewart stans.
I would say that we do stan Kristen Stewart.
That's the phrase that I stand so and so. Good job, way to go. Yeah, I mean, he's having a good camp. Yeah, you are the youth. You are. We are youth. He's having a good camp, man. I mean, it's been awesome to see. I so badly want him to come into his own. And yeah, he had a whatever season last year, but it's so easy to harp on anyone from the season last year. It was garbage. It was hot garbage. So who cares? I mean, it's in the past. It's done with. Let's see what he can do this season. And you have to imagine, too, for guys like Kristen Stewart and maybe guys like Victor Reyes, Willie Castro, whoever it might be, this is not only important for this season to play and compete, but also maybe an audition kind of for next season as well. See if they're sticking around. Because, I mean, like we've talked about it a bunch, the outfield's kind of starting to get a little crowded. So, it's time for some decisions are going to have to be made here. And, let's kind of see what all happens there when that time comes. But yeah, it's time for guys to step up, and I hope Kristen Stewart's one of them. I think he's got nothing but potential.
Yeah, I mean, looking at these lineup cards, I like both outfields. If someone told me that these were the outfields for opening day, I'd be like, yeah, okay, great, that sounds fine. It'll be good. Which is that's the thing about this team is that we look at the number of losses last year. And we look at the offseason moves, and there were some good additions, but nothing really mind-blowing, kind of on its surface. And yet, when we kind of get into these conversations, suddenly you go, "Yeah, this is a great lineup. I don't have a problem with this lineup." And that's true for both. These are two Tigers teams that you could field, and I'd be more or less very happy with them.
I mean, the lineup I think is incredibly improved from last year. I mean, I wholeheartedly believe that. So I agree with you. I'm just looking at these names right here, guys we didn't have last year that either they just weren't on the team or maybe they just hadn't made their debuts yet. But I already see Jonathan Scope, C.J. Crone, Austin Romine, Jorge Bonifacio, Derek Hill, Cameron Maben, although it's kind of funny because Cameron Maben, this is his third stint with the Tigers, but let's move on. Riley Green, is obviously the big name towards the end of that list for the Orange Squad. I'm sure there's a couple other people I'm leaving out. But yeah, I mean, those are, that was 5 or 6 names right there that are just kind of new faces, fresh blood to the team. So, hey, man, why not? 60 games, anything can happen, people. So why not us?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is that I get a sense of this roster that makes me feel like Moneyball and the Athletics, and that there's all these guys that were good, efficient additions.
Yep.
And now we can kind of, and the more I see of this team play, I loved watching them in the spring. I have loved what I've seen in summer camp. I'm excited to watch this game tonight and then get into next week. And I think it's going to be even if it is a season that ultimately ends without the playoffs, which is more than likely what will happen as we kind of look at the trajectory of the team. But I think it will be a significantly more fun season.
I agree
than the past 3 years have been.
And I think all those names we just saw. The one guy I'm most excited to see, and I'm so excited to see so many guys this season: Miguel Cabrera, Nico Goodrum, our guy Kristen Stewart. The list goes on and on. But the one guy who I am most excited that is a brand new addition from a signing this past offseason, CJ Cron. I've been saying it all this time. I am so excited to see him hopefully demolish the ball out of Comerica Park. I think he has the ability to make Comerica Park look like a small baseball stadium. That's saying a lot. That's how much power this guy has. He is not to be taken lightly with the bat. So I'm excited to see him, Scope, Cameron Maben. Yeah, you know what? Sometimes you need a good trilogy with a team. So let's see what Maben does. Back again, Austin Romine. And then, the list goes on and on with the prospects. We've talked about him a bunch. But, it's going to be great. And then, of course, you got a great anchor and guys like Nico Goodrum, Jacoby Jones. Oh, yeah, and this one guy, future Hall of Famer named Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you went through that entire list, not mentioning Miguel Cabrera. And so that entire time, it's just like, oh, yeah, and also arguably one of the greatest hitters of all time.
Yeah, no, he is. He is one of the greatest hitters. Triple Crown winner. Hello?
Yeah.
He's the GOAT.
Still hanging out on the lineup.
He's still crushing it. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I can't wait, and let's watch some baseball.
That's right. And so, folks, we are going to end the live stream here. Thanks for joining us. If you missed us and you're catching the audio version of this as we throw it in the podcast feed, you can join us on Facebook Live every week. So go like the Facebook page. Links in the show notes. Join us on Twitter at @Mish_Trumbull. # Thursdays at the corner for the watch along tonight. And join us in those places because we're going to be doing this all season long. Getting ready to enjoy a season of baseball. And Luke, we'll see you on Twitter in just a few minutes.
Twitter. Sounds good, buddy.
All right. Have a good one.